So if you are into using epoxy and resin and glue like myself, your workbench might look like this. So I do woodworking and work with a lot of epoxy and glue, obviously. And this is what my workbench looks like after 4 years. So I do bowls, sometimes I make tables, but I do other projects that require a lot of epoxy and glue. And your workbench might look like this over a couple of years span. So what I decided to do was try to clean up my act a little bit. So I follow Peter Brown on YouTube, and he uses this particular silicone project mat. So decided to finally, after 4 years, pick up this mat and give it a whirl and see if this can possibly save some of my workbench. Pretty big mat, obviously. It's 30 by 15, and it's huge. Takes up the entire space where I usually do my epoxy pours. So pick this up on Amazon if you're interested. There's a link in the description. But just comes in this regular mat, comes folded right out. Huge, pretty big, large silicone mat. Feels really good. It's got rubber grip, all that good stuff. So what I decided to do was just to test it out and see how well it is, and just poured a bunch of epoxy onto the mat. I'm going to leave it there to dry for about 24 hours and just see how well it is, because even though you work with epoxy, you work with glue, you try to not make a mess, sometimes it's just inevitable that a mess will happen. So 24 hours later, this is what it looks like hardened onto the actual silicone mat itself. And I just wanted to see what the epoxy would peel like after it's set up for about 24 hours instead of sticking to my workbench. And surprisingly, I thought it would come off in just one big piece. It ended up coming off like small little flakes. So the good news is the mat works great. So if you are interested in maybe saving your workspace or your workbench, I'm actually in the process of purchasing another workbench. I'm going to keep the same workbench, but I'm definitely going to use these mats on my newer workbench just to kind of save them and give them a little bit longer longevity. But this set up really well. You can, I'm sure if I put glue on this thing and let it dry as well, it would have peeled off just as nicely. And here we're just like flaking it off. Really malleable, really nice, sets up really good. One of the things that I do like about this mat, just right out of the box, it's got a lot of grip texture to it, because my table is a little bit uneven, and when you're doing some of these projects, things tend to obviously tilt to one side if they're uneven, and you could see that earlier on when I was pouring that epoxy. But I would say this stuff peels off really nice. It's going to save me a lot of time on my workbench. It's going to, give my workbench a little bit longer life and longevity as well. So if you're interested, would definitely recommend. This stuff is just going to fold off, just going to peel off after a while. So if you do end up spilling anything onto your work surface, this mat will definitely take care of it. Would recommend. 10 out of 10. Good piece of kit. Definitely would recommend this for anybody that uses glue, epoxy, or resin of any kind. And this is what it looks like after I cleaned up everything. No mess, no fuss. Would recommend. So hope this video and review was helpful. All right, see you guys in the next one. Pick a mat up. Peace.